Is Britain better under Labour? Do you feel better with Keir Starmer in charge? Get your calls in now. The Labour government has been in power for around 9 months, and in that time, it has tried to tackle what they describe as a £22 billion black hole left over from the Conservative government. It's led to a string of controversial politics like cutting the winter fuel payments, changing the rules around farmers' inheritance taxes, and just yesterday announcing a large cut to benefit payments. But, on the other hand, NHS waiting lists have gone down. A record number of illegal migrants have been returned, and they claim that they've provided stability for long-term growth with things like house building and energy infrastructure. So, Cristo, on balance, is Britain in a better place now than it was 9 months ago?
No. Because I think that a country is usually judged, and I take the point about waiting lists, I think that is something that they are doing well, but Britain is usually judged, a country is usually judged by its prosperity, its economic prosperity, and we have flatlined. Inflation is higher. It went down a bit yesterday, but it is higher than when the Conservatives left office. The Conservatives left office with the economy growing. The economy has more or less flatlined. We have a higher tax burden for people, for everyone, than under the Conservatives, and more taxes that have been placed on businesses, the national insurance rise, and all of those sorts of things. And so what we are seeing, and also because of the disaster of the last budget, which the Chancellor refused to take any responsibility for yesterday. I mean, literally, you could have thrown a stick in the street and you'd have hit someone that she was blaming yesterday for what was going wrong. Because of that, she's left herself with so little money that she's now chosen to go after these vulnerable benefit claimants. And so how anyone on any metric can describe that as better, I don't know. But there is one other point I really want to make about what is better and what isn't. Labour came in promising change. Labour came in promising that they would not be like the other parties. Now, love or loathe the Conservatives, and there was a hell of a lot to loathe about them. I didn't like the end of that last government. But in 2010, with a new Conservative government, they came in having said in their manifesto that they would bring in these cuts. It was one of the first times then in 1979 that a government was elected where it was saying in a manifesto, we are going to spend less. Labour lied. They lied about some of what they were doing. They've lied about this £22 billion black hole, which the OBR, the Office for Budget Responsibility, does not back up.
Well, they don't back up the amount, 22 billion.
Yeah, I think it's about 9.
I think the OBR say definitely 9, perhaps more.
Yeah, not 22 billion.
Sure.
That's a lie. They did not say that they were going to cut winter fuel payments in their manifesto. They did not say that they were going to be changing this inheritance tax. So the trust that they have lost from people and the trust that they have eroded in politics in general is unforgivable.
All right. I think Labour would argue one of their big statements has been, we don't want to promise things that we cannot deliver, which is why they're not saying things that perhaps businesses want to hear. Gemma, I want to come to you in just a moment about what your reactions as well. Because Cristo
no, I think we've heard enough.
No. But I just want to get your reaction to this as well. This is how the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, described the government's impact after the spring statement was delivered yesterday. Have a look.
Today's numbers confirm it. We are poorer and we are weaker. To govern, Mr. Speaker, is to choose. And this Chancellor has made all the wrong choices.
That's Mel Stride yesterday, the Shadow Chancellor. What do you reckon? Are we poorer and weaker?
Labour have made some incredibly bizarre and disappointing choices. But let's not forget that when they came into power, Rishi Sunak bequeathed them net debt at 100% of GDP. So even when Gordon Brown left office, it was 60%. So they've really left, I don't know what the exact numbers are, and we can argue till the cows come home, but we know the country is in a diabolical state. That said, I feel like you're right. We voted for change, and for me, Labour haven't delivered. And yet, I feel there are some things that we should mention. One being, NHS waiting lists are down. That is good. The moment with Starmer, when he was with Trump in the Oval Office and then with Zelensky, I felt like it was the first time in a long time we'd seen a statesman at number 10 at a very, very important time in terms of geopolitics. For me, the UK's stance on Israel and sort of their reluctance to perhaps call out Trump, who I think is so absurdly dangerous as he implements Project 25. I mean, again, I'm not happy with that. And yeah, NI on small businesses, sort of catastrophic for growth. I don't get that. Winter fuel, all of this stuff. So for me, it's nuance. I'm disappointed. And yet, I'm pleased that, and this is the thing, they're really weird at politics, Labour, because yesterday, hidden in all the sort of terrible cuts to disability benefit, I know we're going to talk about wealth tax later, was this news that they are going after tax avoidance. It wasn't mentioned in her speech. But there's a major
she did mention it a little bit.
But not enough.
Very, very
not
briefly,
enough. It was very throwaway and hasn't explained it to people. So there's this sort of swathe of anti-tax avoidance proposals, which are the toughest ever introduced. And Dan Needle's a fantastic tax expert. Look him up, because it's very complex, admittedly. How do you get across to people how sort of important that is? But, that's a good thing. So I don't really get what their game is. I don't know who they're trying to appeal to.
But do you think, and from people at home, we're going to be hearing from them in just a moment, do you think people feel better off?
No.
I know it's 9 months in, but do you think that people would feel better off? Well, hang on, you say no, but the people who've been on a waiting list for a very long time and have just been able to get more appointments for their GPs, I'm sure they will have felt
So let's separate it out, and I think that's important. For me, economically, I don't know what they're doing, but as you say, there are some things going on steadily in the background, some good progress being made that you cannot deny.
Briefly, Cristo.
But just fundamentally, they keep saying that they're fixing the foundations, stability and growth, but nothing that they are doing is actually encouraging. They're just ridiculous, meaningless sound bites rather than actual policies that are going to increase
They would
growth.
argue changing, for example, the policies of whether or not you're allowed to build things here and there.
That's their only saving grace.
$2 billion put aside for affordable homes.
The only saving grace that the OBR is giving them on growth is building, but certainly regressive stuff on businesses and taxes.
Free breakfast clubs coming in as well in primary schools.
Let's pause there and hear what people are saying at home, because it's important to how they feel. Marianne in Kent has got in touch. Marianne, good morning. Do you think Britain is in a better place than it was 9 months ago?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Definitely not. I just feel as though everything that they've said they were going to do, they haven't done, or they've backtracked on it.
Like what? Can you give me an example?
Well, what about stopping the illegal immigrants? No mention has been made of them.
Well, they've actually sent back people who are illegally here. Just 16,400, I think, was the number. It's the largest number since 2018. They've put people on planes and sent them out of the UK. Would you give them credit for that?
What, Labour have actually done that recently?
Yes, they have, in the last 9 months.
Well, they're still coming in, though.
Yeah, I think a record number are coming in, though. That's also the problem.
But the thing is, it's costing this country an awful lot of money. So to look after immigrants when they come in, the illegal immigrants I'm talking about, they have to put them up in hotels. And where's all that money coming from? I just feel as though they're taking the money from the poorest in Britain to cover that. And then they keep talking about, they're building all these new homes. Who are they going to be for? Will we be able to afford them?
Good point.
I see prices going up every day. And to be quite honest, there's no way I could afford it.
I mean, Marion, that is a true fact that they've freed up the most expensive policy, Rwanda, and they've freed up resources, and they are literally working much quicker to process people. And if they're not supposed to be here, get them out. So that's incremental progress.
Incremental progress? Would you be happy with that, Marianne?
I'd be happy if they could stop the boats coming over, yes.
I don't know if anyone can stop that when people are desperate and there's all this stuff going on and millions of Palestinians being displaced and Syrians and, all the problems all over the world. OK.
Marianne, thank you for starting us off. Let's move on to Hugh, who's got in touch from Devon. Hugh, good morning. Do you think the country is in a better state now, 9 months on, than it was before
Certainly
Labour
not.
took charge?
No, not at all. I think with the Labour at the moment, they just seem to be like Tories, if not worse. They seem to be upper middle class people who seem to be on the idea of, well, don't care what happens today or tomorrow. Wait 4 or 5 years down the line, it'd be wonderful. It's like taking someone's roof off their house, middle of winter, and you've got rain and snow coming. It's like, don't worry about it. We don't worry about it. In a few years' time, it'd be great. And in the meantime, you've got pensioners and all these people, sick people, who are really struggling. And Keir Starmer doesn't seem to get it. He's not giving anybody anything good. It's just bad and bad and bad. And in the future, 4 or 5 years down the line, it'll be better. It's dreadful.
Isn't that what's not happening? Because it would have been very easy for the Chancellor to say, do you know what? It's all very difficult. We've got Trump and his tariffs, possibly 25% tariffs on UK-made cars going into the US in April. We've got Ukraine and the demands and the costs of spending on defence. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to borrow some more money, OK? We can all agree this is a bit of an emergency. But they're not doing that because they're thinking about the future, because they're thinking that, hang on, if we borrow now, future generations will be worse off. I mean, how would you like them to solve the problem?
What Labour have done, they boxed themselves into this corner by saying, we're not going to tax people, we won't do this, we won't do that. And they've turned around now and taking money off pensioners, off farmers, off all these people.
So would you rather they tax people instead?
Yes.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you expect from Labour to do anyway.
Well, we're going to talk about it later, but absolutely, Hugh, I couldn't agree more. You tax the very, very wealthy. If you've got 10 million quid in the bank, you can afford 200 grand out of that.
You cannot tax your way into economic growth and wealth. And secondly, can I just say one other point about the mess that we are in with borrowing, which you made a fair point that we have a huge amount of borrowing and the amount that we owe at the moment, right? Well, that was all as a result of COVID, which were policies that the Labour Party supported. Rachel Reeves yesterday was blaming the economic chaos that was handed to her by the Tories. Labour wanted more money being spent on COVID and for it to go further.
If you've got a fiat currency, it sort of means nothing anyway. I agree with you. If the majority of the population don't have any money in their pockets, bills are going up, mine have all gone up, every single blooming one, then you don't have anything to spend and everything has a knock-on effect.
Then you lower taxes for those people.
Yes.
Lower taxes for those
Cristo,
people. That drives growth.
Can we agree? Not for multi-billion.
Okay. I want you to save this because we're going to be talking about that next, whether or not Labour should be taxing the super wealthy. Just a quick question, though.
Call me a numpty.
Just a quick question. Look, put your complaints in the complaints box on the way out. Hugh, just before we go, what would you have liked to have heard from the Chancellor yesterday?
Just for once, I think if you just turn around and just be true Labour, as you always said, Labour look after the sick, the infirm, the old people, the people. So they're supposed to be socialist, be a socialist person. They seem to be all upper middle class people. Years ago, my father showed me on TV. He said, look, over there, you've got Labour, Conservative. He pointed out, said, blokes with the suits on. That's Conservatives, they're businessmen. Over there, gentlemen who sat with not business suits, like college professors, that's Labour, they're working class people. And over there, Lib Dems, blah, blah. The fact is, look at them all today, and they all look the same, exactly the same. Labour, Lib Dems,
all looking the same and roughly the same policies. Hugh, thank you. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to squeeze in Janice before we wrap up the topic because she's been waiting to speak to us. Janice is in Essex. Good morning, Janice. Do you feel better off after 9 months of a Labour government?
Hi, nice to speak to you again. And could you just tell Cristo, I have got a washing up bolt and a flannel because I've got no boiler. I think we're in big trouble. I think 4 years of this lot, we will be bankrupt.
Why?
Ed Miliband's still steaming on with these mad cap ideas, and they're going to go for, we don't want it. It's
hang on, you're talking. Explain what Ed Miliband's doing that you don't want.
Well, you can't take up farmland, and then you're going to put pylons on, then you're going to put wind farms on. He's coming hell for leather on this, and we know they don't work. He's doing this capture.
Janice, hang on.
It doesn't work.
Hang on. What doesn't? I mean, we know wind farms can actually reduce your energy as long, and solar farms can do. They're not perfect. And yes, there are times where they won't be doing what they need and we have to supplement energy elsewhere, but they will reduce your energy bills in the long run. So why do you disagree with that?
Well, in 50 years, because we don't have the infrastructure, we're running before we can walk.
Okay.
You know, I give other countries a turning around, even America, they're doing everything else in conjunction, not us. We just want to, cement everything that we can find that could give us something, and we're all going to be sitting here poorer and poorer.
All right, Janice thinks we're going to get poorer and poorer by the end of this Labour government. Thank you for your calls on this and your messages. Don't forget.